Right. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the break. So I've got a relatively easy job here because all I'm going to do is ask a few questions. But there's opportunities for you to ask some questions too. So if you've got any questions that you might want to ask the panelists about, about employment rather than necessarily entrepreneurship, but perhaps a little bit of both, then we'll have an opportunity for you to ask questions. So what I'm going to do now is really just start by asking my guest speakers to introduce themselves. As I said, I'm being really lazy today and getting everybody else to do all the work. So I'm going to get them to introduce themselves, and I've also warned them in advance. So I was going to ask them to maybe mention in their introduction an unusual job that they've done or an unusual skill that they've had. And just to see that, people don't necessarily follow straightforward career paths. And I'm going to kick off just by announcing myself that once upon a time I was a shepherdess. So that's what I tend to put in my CV or say or want to start a conversation with people. Especially at this time of year when it's spring, I quite often feel like jumping into a field and helping with the lambing, but I don't. So there we go. So our guest speakers today, Belinda Roberts, Paul Atkinson and Zara Pryor. And if you'd like to start with Belinda and just introduce yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
I haven't leapt into any fields recently to do any lambing, I have to say. But I'm Belinda Roberts. I'm the founder of We Do Scotland, which is a networking and support organisation for entrepreneurs. So we have 160 members who are based throughout Scotland, predominantly in Edinburgh. And our ethos is based upon sharing knowledge, ideas and experiences to support one another to grow our businesses. I also have another business called Marvellous Mustard, which is mustard making kits. We are the only seller of mustard making kits in the UK and Europe. And on another hat, Paul has several too, may I say. I also have another business called The Networking Coach. So we specialise in networking and LinkedIn training. So, and in terms of an unusual job that, that I've had, I sold a sales and management training company 13 years ago. I'm really quite old and I know I look it. But I sold that business 13 years ago and decided that I wanted out of the corporate world and corporate life for a while. So in a moment of complete and utter madness, I decided to go to beauty school and retrain as a nail technician. Which, suffice to say, I was not very good at it. I did pass, but after 6 months, I thought of people saying to me, "So have you been doing this for long?" I thought, this is really not for me, so got out of it again. Great to be here. Nice to see you all.
Paul?
Paul Atkinson. I'll start off with my unusual job. So a long time ago, I was a tractor driver for a while, and until I took the wing mirrors off a van with a trailer. I went on to do physics at Manchester University though, so I did get a life after that. But I'm the partner and founder of a private equity business called Power Equity. One of the things I do, we invest in young venture companies. We've got about 30 companies in the portfolio. So we're looking for great ideas, great people to build businesses that want to take international. And we don't mind whether it's software, hardware, medical devices. It's pretty broad. And I also am an investor in a number of other companies, but I spent 25 years in the recruitment industry prior to Power Equity. A few years of that building and exiting my own businesses, and I'm still an owner of one of Scotland's largest IT recruitment businesses called Head Resourcing, and a medical recruitment business called Head Medical. And I'm looking forward to debate this afternoon. I think there's going to be hopefully some good questions, and hopefully I've got a bit of an insight in terms of both backing entrepreneurs to build businesses, but also starting and building and selling my own businesses. And obviously recruitment is completely relevant in terms of where people go with their jobs next.
Okay, great, thanks. Zara?
Hi everyone, I'm Zara and I work for Brewdog. I joined Brewdog about 3 years ago as part of their graduate program. I've worn a few different hats in a very fast-growing company. At the moment I'm head of people, so it's my team that are responsible for all recruitment, company culture, training and development across Brewdog bars as well as our PLC, which is a brewery based up in Aberdeenshire. So I guess for this debate I do also have a bit of that recruitment experience. In my short tenure at Brewdog, I've hired over 150 people for the company. Now we've got a recruitment manager, but I still get involved in some more senior roles. Our graduate scheme will be launching at some stage in about July of this year, so do keep an eye out for that. You never know where it might take you. In terms of an interesting job, I was once employed to play the character of Barbie in a children's character show, and I got a special blonde wig made just for me. It's pretty fun.
So you never know what skills and hidden talents people have. Thank you. So the first question I was going to kick off with was really, what are the main things that employers look for in a new graduate? And do you think this has changed maybe in the past 5 to 10 years or so? So, Belinda, let's start with you.
Goodness, well, we've just taken someone on actually into We Do Scotland, which she's not a graduate, she's not even started at university yet, but she's a school leaver. But I guess it's pretty much the same thing, to be honest. I also worked in recruitment for 8 years, which is actually how I first met Paul. And I also sat on the board of the Recruitment and Employment Confederation, so I know recruitment pretty well. I think one of the most important things for graduates and what people are looking for, what companies are looking for, is the right attitude. It's all very well, you know, people can go and get their degrees, and that's all very important, and it's you know, that's never going to change. But a lot, I think, is to do with attitude. It's to do with what kind of things do you do in your spare time? What kind of things have you actually gone and tried to get some work experience? All those kind of things, I think, are hugely important. There is more and more competition out there than there ever has been, I think. And I obviously appreciate also it's a lot more difficult for a lot of you people to get into university now. But I think that attitude has got an awful lot to do with it. I know certainly from people that I know who work, some of whom work in very large corporate organisations in HR departments, that one of the problems that they have with some graduates, and please don't think I'm not suggesting this is any of you, because I'm not at all, but with some graduates, I think some of the problems that they come across are they're not, you know, they finish a task and they'll sit there and think, well, that's that task done now, rather than thinking, well, what else could I be doing? So going to their line manager or whatever and saying, what should I be doing here? What else can I do? What else can I learn? They'll kind of get their mobile phones out and sit there looking at their mobiles. And that was feedback that I got from a very large organisation, which is a global whisky company, from their HR director. So I think things have moved on a lot, and I think it's a lot to do with the other thing that I would mention here actually is social media. So things like, you know, your LinkedIn profile, make sure you have a LinkedIn profile, make sure it is professionally written, make sure that you've added whatever skills and expertise you have, make sure you've written a good summary. So things like the summary that you have, it's not your CV. Your CV is underneath that in your experience. Your summary is really to get across your personality. Because if you think about it, you're competing against goodness knows how many people, and virtually every employer these days will go on to LinkedIn and look to see if you have a LinkedIn profile. And just one thing I want to add just on the back of that as well is if you haven't already done so, then please make sure that you Google yourselves, because in this age of social media, do you want your personal Facebook page appearing when potential employers or potential clients or whoever it might be can then find your Facebook page? So it's very easy to hide your Facebook profile from Google searches. Okay, so just think about that as well, and think about what you're putting out there. So if you have a Twitter account as well, if you're either going for a job or you want to set up your own business, think about what's out there, Google yourselves, check, because it can really get in your way.
Paul?
Well, great advice. I'll come to you for career advice next year. I think, I mean, there's many different ways of looking at this. I think larger employers look for slightly different things from young companies and smaller companies. And I'll come back to that in a second. I think getting some work experience as part of why you there as an undergraduate is really important, particularly if it's relevant to whatever your aspiration for a future career is. Now, when I was an undergraduate, I didn't know what my future career was. I was doing physics. I thought I wanted to go into R&D, which I didn't end up doing. But if you do know what you want to do, get some work experience in it. If you want to be a lawyer, go and get some experience in a law firm. If you want to be a doctor, go and get some experience in a local surgery, etc. That's really important. And there's no doubt in my mind that ultimate exam results remain really, really important. And typically a sign that people have worked hard and applied themselves to get those results. So that's important. Communication skills in a lot of jobs which are customer facing or even just within the team, again, really, really important. Not necessarily if you're going to be a techie writing code all day, which some people want to do and that's their aspiration. But if you're going to be in a role where communication skills are important, bear that in mind. And also, for a lot of jobs, the quality and standard of written communication is really, really important. If you're going to communicate with a customer, it has to be in clear, plain English and not with spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes. Employers look at all these kinds of things. I've got an involvement in 2 recruitment companies, one in the IT business, and what I can say about that is there's a absolutely colossal shortage in technology skills right now, and it's only getting worse. And that's not just straightforward coding skills, it's people who look after web content on websites and all kinds of different things. Mobile media types of roles. It's an area where there's a massive skill shortage, and actually that's not communicated enough to people at university and people at school. When I talk to school teachers, they don't even know there's such a big skill shortage in technology. And the second area I'm involved in is in the medical arena, which continues to be a really excellent career for people. And a big trend in that area is obviously medical informatics and applying technology to the medical area. So I guess just coming back to the big company, small company thing, small companies are looking for people who are flexible, can do a number of different jobs and roles, and they want to do that. And actually, if as an intern or a new joiner to a small company, you're likely to get a much broader range of things to do, at least if the employer's at all enlightened anyway. Big companies still, unfortunately, tend to pigeonhole people a bit. And although that's changing, I'll come to an example in a second, although that's changing, it's probably not changing fast enough. So if you're the kind of person who likes variety and doing lots of different things, you're going to enjoy a small company much more than a big company, I think. An example of a big company trying to bring itself into the modern age was a large financial services company who was starting its own internal digital arm for mobile and web stuff. And they're kind of bent or lean towards creating the kind of working environment to attract the right kind of people, creative people to work in that area for them, was to have a room with soft cushions in it. So I'm not sure what they did beyond that, but every single company on the planet now is looking for digital skills. And it's the fastest growing area of employment there is.
And can people, if they've not studied digital skills in a degree, can they learn these afterwards?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Well, social media skills, real experts in LinkedIn and Facebook are really in demand. So just by doing the stuff you normally do at home in an evening, that's in demand as a skill now. But yeah, you don't have to be a computer scientist to get a job in programming.
Sarah, have you got...
No, I think it's been very, very well covered. But I think BrewDog being a small company, being a fast-growing company, we certainly look for passion in people's applications. One of the hardest things will be getting from sending out your CVs and applying for lots of jobs to getting that face interview. And I know for me, when I was looking for roles, that was the biggest frustration, because I felt like if I could be at an interview and explain myself better, I would land that role. But it was always getting cut out at that point. Don't spell check your applications. You mentioned grammar and you mentioned proper use of English, and absolutely spell check your applications, your cover letter. Don't just copy and paste a company name and do a generic cover letter. If you really want to work for that company, do research. Get to know what that company's about, what they're looking for, what challenges they might be facing, what new markets they're interested in. Show that you're thinking, that you're critical, that you have value to add. For us, passion underpins everything we do as a company, so you don't need to be someone who necessarily knows about craft beer to join BrewDog, but you need to be someone who can talk passionately about something. We don't mind if it's chess, we don't mind if it's your stamp collection or mountain biking on the weekends, but showing that you have got passion and ambition and drive will send you miles in that interview, because we know that we can teach you the skills you might lack, but what we can't teach you is that enthusiasm and that want to push yourself and that that want to take our whole business as well as yourself to the next level.
The next question I was going to ask kind of follows on a little bit from that, and I was going to ask if personal attributes such as having good enterprise skills are actually more important than subject knowledge. Do you want to start with that, Sarah?
Sure. From my perspective, BrewDog as a company, it spans lots of different working areas. We have roles from engineers through to customer service and front of house staff. So for us, there is an extent to which we can't really hire an engineer unless they have got that degree or that background or gone through an apprenticeship. Those are things that we can't. We do apprenticeships and we can teach some of those skills on the job, but to step into a role, really you do need a degree. There are a lot of roles for us, such as our general managers or our sales roles, where personality, that adaptability, that flexibility is a lot more important. We've hired people in project management who came from a law background, and this person had just been a lawyer, was working in a lawyer's office with a very successful career ahead of them, and one day just went, I can't do this anymore. It's not me. I can see my life unfolding. I can see the wife, the kid, the mortgage, and this job for the next 20 years, and it's not what I want. And he didn't know what he wanted and put in a speculative application at BrewDog. And just sitting in front of him, having an interview, talking about his skills, we ended up having a role that was appropriate for him. But what he showed at that interview wasn't the degree, it was that desire to push himself, to do something different, to utilize his skills and to, I think, have ownership of something. All of our employees, no matter what area of the company they work in, own that area and understand the part that they play in the bigger picture, and that's vastly important.
Paul, would you agree?
I'd agree with all of that. I think defining enterprise is actually quite difficult. I think it means many things to many different people, but what it means to me is people have got drive, as you were saying, enthusiasm, able to apply themselves, able to respond to challenges, and typically the most successful entrepreneurs have been able to take a knockback and get up and go again. And actually, if you look at I think it's the rich list in the UK, 100 richest people, there's a disproportionate number of dyslexic, for example, and don't have degrees. So they've got whatever it takes, they've got up and done it. And these are self-made people rather than people who've walked into money. So I think that ability to overcome things, work with people, work with a team, get things done, have enthusiasm, drive, passion for what you're doing takes you a long way. Maybe that defines enterprise, I'm not quite sure, but...
Belinda? I totally concur with everything that Zara and Paul have said there. I mean, a degree or whatever is obviously important. It proves certain skills to people. It proves that you have the willpower is probably not the right word, but you have the ability to look at a subject, to become an expert in that subject, and I think that's great. But it is about an awful lot more than that, and it is about all the things that Zara and Paul talked about there. And I see that every day with our 160 entrepreneur members whose ages range from 22 right up to 67. And every single one of them has in fact, I'm sitting looking at one of our members right this moment in the middle of this room. Every single one of our members have this very similar drive, the tenaciousness, the integrity in terms of what they do, the ambition and the passion. And that obviously goes back to what Zara was talking about as well. There is nothing worse, and I have taken on a number of staff over the years, there is nothing worse than sitting in front of somebody who is not passionate about what they're doing. There is absolutely nothing worse than that. I love what I do, and I think that's probably quite apparent in terms of, when I'm speaking to people or anything that I'm doing. So keep that word, passion, in your heads, please.
Could I add one thing? I was picking up on Belinda said about integrity. In my career in business, the single thing that is going to probably means people will work with you, give you business and so on, is integrity, which means doing what you say you're going to do, treating other people as you want to be treated yourself. And so you'll go a long way if you can stick to those two things.
At this point, has anyone in the audience got any questions that they want to ask the panel? Yeah, a question over there.
This one's primarily for Paul, but it's open to everyone. In terms of investing in companies, what do you look for in the people as opposed to the business?
Well, I think it is that kind of passion and drive and enthusiasm for what they're doing. Fundamentally, they still have to have a good idea. No matter how passionate and enthusiastic they have to have a good idea that we can back. We tend not to back absolute startups, but we will back companies that are very early, i.e. they've just got the first check from somebody or got the first pilot customer. I think we also like investing in people who know their subject matter inside out and back to front. Because we know then they can respond when things are going wrong. You'd be surprised just how many people approach us looking for money who haven't even looked up whether there's competitors to what they're about to do on Google. And it takes me about 2 seconds to find out they've got 10 competitors, yet they will still say to me, we haven't got any competition for what we do. I said, well, I think you have. So actually knowing your subject matter, done the research, you've thought about the business model, you've already talked to some customers. Again, the number of people that come to us and say, and we say to them, so have you talked to any customers yet? Oh, we don't want to talk to any customers yet because they might steal our idea. Well, how do you know you've got customers then if you haven't talked to anybody? So it's really important to us that they can communicate what they're going to do. They've done their research. They have a plan. Quite often the plan's not quite right, and 95% of the time, 5 seconds after we've invested in them, the plan changes. That is normal in life. Most companies we invest in over forecast, under deliver. The game changes. Certain assumptions they had about their plan are not what they thought they were. But that's just normal enterprise and venture really. With the stage we invest at, we expect things to go wrong. But actually, fundamentally, we want to invest in people who can deal with things when they go wrong, and are not, and have got the kind of personality approach to bounce back and get on with it, but also take input from others. People who don't take input from others to us in the investment world are dangerous people. So,
it sounds like,
does that answer?
Yeah. It sounds like that's relevant whether you're looking to invest in a business or whether you're looking to invest in an employee as well, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's one thing for us at BrewDog is, we're a rapidly growing company, and at the pace we move, things do go wrong. We encounter obstacles almost every day. And for us, we have the employees who will come to their managers and go, I've hit this problem, and here are 3 solutions I think are going to work. Can you let me know what you think I should do? And that way, everyone's learning from it. The manager's learning that the employee is capable, that they can troubleshoot situations that arise effectively. The employee's kind of trying out different things, and will get that guidance to know the next time they hit that problem, the approach and the thinking they need to fix it without having to go to their manager, which I think gives them more ownership over their role and their position in the company.
I think it's worth saying that you also quite often sometimes need the team to fix the problem, not just the individual.
Yes,
because some problems are actually really, really complicated.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
Any more questions from the audience at the moment? Yeah, a few. It's over there in the middle. And then there's a girl down at the front there as well.
You mentioned the shortage of technical skills. So just wondering which sort of areas of technical skills are really lacking?
I think it's pretty much in every area of software, to be honest. Doesn't matter if it's .NET, Java, web skills, mobile programming skills, using social media, able to integrate one person's software to another person's software. There's a lack of sales skills in the technology industry as well. So there's a lot of people some people make very good careers working in a sales environment in technology and software. And the skill shortage is right across the market. It's big companies, small companies. I mean, JP Morgan, for example, right now are looking to hire 500 people in Glasgow. Skyscanner are hiring a colossal number of people. And there just aren't the people out there. And most organisations are now going beyond Scotland to try and fulfil the skill shortage. But as a result, the barrier to entry to get into a technology career is extraordinarily lower than it would ordinarily be in a different environment. So if you want to work in technology, you can probably find a way of doing it right now. You'd have to apply yourself and go and do some courses or whatever else. But if you want to work in technology just now, you can find a way of doing it usually. And you don't have to have a particular bent for programming to do so.
Belinda, what about your members? I mean, are there any skill shortages that they're looking for?
I was actually just about to say, and it completely backs up what Paul just said there. we have within our Young Members Club, we have 38 members who are under the age of 35, which is our kind of cut-off for our Young Entrepreneur Award. And one of the problems which is broached just about every single event that we have for our young members, a lot of them work within the tech sector, and what they really struggle with is attracting the best talent, because for the very reasons that Paul's talking about. So you get the large organisations, you get the Skyscanners, you get all those types of companies who are offering bigger salaries, they're offering better benefits, and a lot of people would rather go and work for a company like that. My own feeling, and I'm obviously slightly biased since I've been an entrepreneur since goodness knows how long, I think that the opportunities that present, it depends on you as an individual, but I think that the opportunities that present themselves when you do work for a smaller organisation, for an entrepreneurial organisation, whether that is your own company or whether it's someone else that you go and work for, you get such a good grounding in so many different aspects of that business. So even if you do go in a technical role, you know, there is an awful lot more that you can learn. You can learn a lot more about whether it's the finance side, whether it's marketing, whether it's digital. There are a lot of opportunities there. But that's certainly one of the challenges that a lot of our members come up against, is trying to beat, if you like, in inverted commas, the big boys to get the right talent. So what I would say is, if you're looking for jobs, etc., don't just look at the big companies, look at the smaller ones as well, because there can be some really good opportunities there.
Well, one side note on it is actually there's a massive shortage of hackers. Anybody in the audience?
Sarah,
Ethical hacking.
Do Brewdog have difficulty recruiting any particular types?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, a big challenge is being where we're based with engineering and technical roles in our production facility in the brewery. It's quite difficult for us to find engineers because we struggle as an independent company to compete with the wages that the oil industry can offer, though we're spending a lot of time working on our benefits package and what you gain from working at Brewdog that we hope is a bit more exciting than what you gain from working for BP. But so yeah, the skills shortage for us definitely in engineering roles. That would be the main part. Technical brewing roles for us, we're actually hoping to work with the Scottish Government this year to get modern apprenticeships in brewing and packaging, because they don't actually exist. And a lot of our employees can join at entry level in brewing, and we will pretty much put them through that apprenticeship program so that they can graduate as senior brewers at Brewdog. And it's something that we want to get properly acknowledged and get government funding to help support that. But that's another area where we have to look overseas to try and find skilled brewers.
So there was a question from the audience there, yes?
Yeah, so you were all talking about the passion and drive being the main thing that you're looking for in an employee, that attitude. So what are the indicators that you might look for on a CV of those characteristics?
Good question.
From our side, CVs have changed. They change so much in months. How CVs look. It's something you should constantly be refreshing your CV and making sure that you're putting your achievements on there. I think for us, it's very difficult to get personality out in what is a very formal document. Don't be afraid of playing with your cover letter to show a bit more personality and show some critical thinking. Try to maybe get out of just saying, I can do this and I can do this, but marry your skills with what you identify as potential shortages in the company, or areas where the company have openly said in their blog, in PR releases, that they're struggling or they're looking to move into, and try and say, well, I have these skills and I think I could help you here because I see that you're trying to do this, because you're showing that critical thinking, and that critical thinking can still come across in a written letter. Don't be afraid to play with that format as well. Some of the best CVs I've had come through have been really, really wacky. Somebody sent me a message in a Brewdog bottle, which was just an empty Brewdog bottle they'd drunk, put a message in their whole CV and cover letter inside it and post it to me at the brewery, which was an incredible way to capture attention, to show imagination and a different approach. Somebody else put through a Prezi application, which was, why Brewdog should hire me. And it was a very entertaining, very personalized cover letter replacement that I could click my way through and see pictures of them, read more about their experience. So play with the application. It's a fine line to being professional. Sometimes we get employees or prospective employees, because we've got a very out there brand, a very uncompromising brand. People sometimes mistake that and maybe slag off current employers or slag off competitive companies to BrewDog, and that's absolutely not what we're about. So make sure you keep it professional, show your own personality, and focus on positive things and positive change.
Yeah, also make the language action-oriented. What I mean by that is, I've spent 25 years reading CVs before I started doing what I'm doing now. And I can't remember how many tens of thousands I've read. But most of it was technology and IT people, program managers, IT directors, programmers, and so on. And quite often you see a paragraph in a CV that said, I was involved in a team that did this. And my question immediately is, well, what did you do in the team that did that? I was involved in that. Were you making the tea for the team? Or so actually, saying you delivered this bit of it, this is what I did, rather than this is what I was involved in, is quite important. And saying what you've achieved is quite important. And what to you might be a small thing, might be to others be quite a big thing. But also you can see some of the personality in the CV by hobbies and interests and other things they're involved in. That's part of the colour of that you kind of look for, really. I always look for lead guitarists and bass players and things to go in my band, but that's
That's actually in his dreams, he doesn't mean that. If I can just add one thing to that as well, which is actually in the back of what's just been said as well, but make sure that you don't oversell yourself. So don't put skill, if you don't have a particular skills, and this doesn't matter whether it's in your CV, whether it's on your LinkedIn profile or anything, do not write down skills that you do not have, because you will get caught out. Paul was talking there about obviously his recruitment side of things. The recruitment that I used to do was for salespeople, so you can imagine how much of a challenge that was. By the time you talked through all the amazing achievements that they'd had, and if you actually looked at that a little bit closer, it wasn't always the case. So just watch that you don't exaggerate and oversell your skill set in terms of what you actually have and the abilities that you have. It's quite an important one as well. And I don't know whose phone that is. It's not mine.
Sorry, that's mine. It's not me. That's my fault. My wife's wondering where I am.
I just on one of the challenges I think is I think maybe when you were coming from was actually how do you get personality onto the written page? And actually I've been reading recently there's a trend for people submitting video CVs. Have you seen that? And what do you think of that? Is that something that you would consider? I mean, is that something that's worth doing to actually see the person? Or
can I?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I personally would absolutely love that, because I think having said that, some people are very nervous on camera. I know the guys at FatBuzz very well who are doing all the filming today, so yes, exactly. So within about 2 minutes of having arrived here, I was hoodwinked into standing in front of the camera and talking about it today, which is great. I personally love that. I think it's a great way to get your personality across. What I would say was, if you are not comfortable in that situation, then do not do it. If you are, though, I think it can be a really powerful way of getting your personality. And going back to the things that Zara was talking about earlier as well, show that you've done your research. Show that you've actually gone, not just going to look at somebody's website, go and read their blog. Go and have a look at their Twitter, see the kind of things they're talking about, and then try and relate things and skills that you have and interests that you have directly back to them. But I think video is great. In fact, our last New Media Breakfast, Gordon was talking about the power of video and how extremely good it can be. I think it's great. I love that approach. I think it's really good.
And Paul, have you seen much of that in recruitment?
Well, it is increasing. I mean, we did our first video interviews going back to 1992, or 1999, 2000, roughly. Then the technology was really pretty clunky, as you can probably imagine. But more and more companies are using it as part of the selection process. But there's still quite a lot of employers out there that don't. And I'm thinking of large financial services companies principally, where actually sending a video interview along with a CV would probably be a negative rather than a positive thing to do, and that's just because that's not the way they do things. But I think really I back up what Belinda said. If you believe that a video presentation is going to add impact to your application, then do it. On the other hand, if you don't think it will, don't do it.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with what Paul and Belinda have said. I think it has to be relevant to what you're applying for. I think in the day and age that now everyone can make a video anytime. We've had a couple of applications where I'll get a video sent through and it has absolutely nothing to do with the job. I think my favorite was somebody who sent me a picture of them in Mexican wrestling gear, a video, sorry, of them in Mexican wrestling gear, jumping off a table and breaking another table, and then kind of going, "Urgh." And it was like, okay, I don't know what you were trying to tell me in that video. Are you saying you're an aggressive person? You'll never let anything get in your way? Contextualize that video and make it easy for the person at the other end to actually click on it and view it. Because the statistics of how long a recruiter will spend looking at a CV are pretty scary. It can be about 11 seconds before they decide whether or not to keep reading or to look at the next CV. So if you're going to include a video, preface it with some text to explain what it is and why that they want to click that link, and make sure when they're clicking that link they don't have to then enter a password or do lots of different things to finally see the video content. Download a plugin because it's some random site that you're using and not something well used. You have to make it easy, otherwise I think the preference would be it's hosted somewhere on the internet so you can click the link and follow it, rather than download this now, have I got the right kind of player for that format? Those obstacles will ruthlessly probably make someone go, nope, don't have time, next CV.
Yeah. And then it's probably negative rather than the positive that you sent a video.
Any more questions? Yeah. I'm conscious of the time, so fairly quick.
Yeah, this is just for Zara. How do you maintain the culture in what is quite a fast-growing company? Because I guess that's very important to you.
For us, that's something that my team do work on. Culture is all about our people, so we are very our recruitment process can be quite long-winded. Much as we need to grow quickly, we will wait to find the right person to fill that role, and we'll vet at interview not just for skills and experience, but for attitude and personality. We spend a lot on internal communications, so as we continue to grow, making sure that it feels like a small company, making sure people get our onboarding program, for example, is 2.5 days long. You're always starting in the company with about 5 other people who are starting in different areas of the business, so it's experiential right from the start. You get to brew your own beer, so straight away on day 3 you're brewing your own beer, which you get to decide the style, you have to do the name and the launch plan. You've got to really think about our whole business in this one nutshell of a day. And about a month to 2 months later, you're already in your job. You'll get the beer that you brewed sent to you, whether you work at the brewery or whether you're an employee who works remotely or in one of our bars. And for us, those constant reminders that we actually love what we do, we make an incredible product that people do enjoy, really do help, and getting as much feedback and as much involvement from our own staff. So we have regular kind of staff events. One of my favorites that I was talking about earlier is our dog's breakfast. So once a month, employees for Brewdog at our head office will cook breakfast for the whole company. And this started about a year ago when we were only 60 people. We're now about 150, so it's always a fun feat when you've got about 2 or 3 volunteers from our staff sitting there trying to flip bacon and pancakes and eggs for 150 people between 5:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. Once a month. So little quirky things that can remind people that, yeah, we work hard, but we play hard too. We've got a ping pong table in our staff room, for example, which is awkwardly located right next to our meeting room. So it's quite fun when you're having a very serious meeting and you can just hear this clanking of ping pong in the other room and the occasional swear word as somebody wins or loses a match.
One last very quick, I think.
Well, in one of my old jobs, I helped recruit as well. And one thing I noticed, and I want to see if you think the same thing, was you do make a picture in your head of someone before they come in with your CV. And something, for example, the way they dress is really important. I mean, if you walk in with someone, if you're on par with someone walks in with trainers and someone, it does show your seriousness for the job. And also your posture can have a big impact as well. Like if you're slumped or if you're actually 2 feet on the ground, it shows you're confident and it makes a big impact. So, do you agree with this in an interview, or who you?
We're all going to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think first impressions count for a lot, no matter whether you're going for an interview or going to sell something or or whatever. But actually, interestingly, I've placed some very senior people in jobs where I refused to send the CV to the hiring manager because if I sent the CV, they wouldn't have interviewed them. And then they still got the job because I knew it was the right person for the job. So that's on a CV presentation rather than face-to-face presentation. But yeah, it does matter. You know, general things would be you turn up for an interview, dress smartly. It's really obvious. Have a bath in the morning, a shower. Don't go to an interview after you spent two nights on the tiles, partying away in a weekend. You know, obvious things.
Another thing I think is quite important, if I can interrupt just for 1 second, is try and dress according to the culture of that organisation. Because I have to say, if you're going for an interview, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, Zara, but I don't imagine that anybody would really go for an interview at Brewdog unless we're completely mad in a three-piece suit with a tie on and a pair of beautifully polished brogues. I might be completely wrong, but do your research and find out what the culture of that company is. I don't mean by that you go for an interview looking scruffy. You can still be dressed smart, casual or whatever, but don't go suited and booted looking completely OTT, because it'll set you really back from your own perspective as well. Because if you happen to get a tour around the company, or the person sitting opposite you is wearing an open-neck shirt and a pair of jeans, and it's all quite casual, as is everybody in that organisation, you're going to feel really uncomfortable. So you're not going to present yourself in the best light in that situation.
I think to add to that, if in doubt, ask. If you're not sure what is appropriate to wear at an interview, ask. We have a line that says, we're a pretty casual company, so you'll only be underdressed if you turn up in your pajamas, as we mostly kick about in jeans and a shirt. But with that said, we do say we want people to show their personality. So if you're a Barney Stinton and you feel best in a three-piece suit, rock your three-piece suit, because you'll feel more comfortable and more confident in that. I think it's that balance of being professional and smart, but allowing your personality to come through as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've run out of time, so just a round of applause for our panel. Thank you very much.